I'm Jeff Woods from the Legends of Classic Rock. Man, it's been, we just talked, 12, 13 years since I've seen you. It's great to see you again. This time you've come not with an album, but with a book. Sammy, nice to
Thank
see
you.
Thanks for coming around.
My first book tour, and I agreed to do some. I'm going to do some in-store book signings.
Yeah.
And my whole career, all the albums I've ever released, I would never do in-stores from a record company because I felt uncomfortable. I don't like being around the fans in that intense of a situation because I feel like I just can't keep up with them. You know, like everyone's got a story. Everyone's going, you know, hey, I saw you in '88, and you're going, yeah, and then the next guy's coming with a whole, it's like it jolts your brain. I mean, you got to be like some kind of a maniac.
And you probably feel like you should remember because they remember so distinctly, and you can't remember everyone
I
the
try
way
to engage.
right?
I try to listen to the person, and I try to comment. To where most people, they just shut down and say, oh yeah, sure, great, nice to meet you, and they keep rolling. I can't do that. I have to engage, you know, it's the type of personality. So I'm doing it with the book, and I don't know if I'm gonna regret it or not, but I'm doing it. I don't mind doing the interviews. It's all one-on-ones, great.
Yeah.
But when you got 500 fans and everyone's got a different story, and you try to engage, man, when it's done, you're going, I'm like exhausted. You know?
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
It's tough being.
That's the problem being around so long. If I were a brand new artist, they wouldn't have a story.
How old do you feel?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm maybe mid-30s.
That's cool.
That's about what I feel like, you know?
Some days probably 17, depending on what thoughts going through
No,
you.
some days 70. Well, some mornings 70.
Yeah, I get that.
I own a tequila company, pal.
There's that. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Lest anyone think that the book is strictly about your time in Van Halen, because a lot of people go directly to that.
Yeah.
You cover everything from being a kid, which I really enjoy, to the early bands, Montrose too, and right through to Chickenfoot. Tell us why this was the right time to tell your story, because you're not an old man that has to do his memoirs suddenly because he's in the dying days of his life.
Yeah, you know, I just felt it was time kind of to capture this part of my life in that era because things happen so fast for me now. You know, it's like that's the only thing I can say about getting older is all of a sudden I'm looking back going, wow, the reunion was 7 years ago. I'm shocked. I mean, I thought it was last month. I mean, so I'm going, I really want to document this half of my life because I am changing. I'm not touring as much, even though I have a brand new band, Chickenfoot. And I got two bands now. You know, my band, The Wobbles, which have been my band since I left Van Halen, and Chickenfoot. And I'm doing a new CD with Chickenfoot. All those things I'm going, but I really don't feel like I'm like the rock star era. I want to get that whole thing that got me through to my the long road to Cabo, you might say. That's kind of like the end of an era for me, and I think things are changing in my life. I can't go out and do 100 shows a year. You know, I could, but I'd be the last. You know, so I just think it was time to do it, and I want to do it while I still remembered it because I do remember everything vividly, and I wanted to do it at this time of my life. I think it's time to tell my story. I'm probably the most misunderstood guy in rock. You know, and people. You know, when I sold to Cabo Wabo Tequila for all that money and that got out to everyone, a lot of people was thinking that, you know, oh, he's a businessman, oh, he's this and he's that. I'm not a businessman at all. I'm the worst businessman on the planet. I'm the luckiest son of a gun on the planet. But I'm a creative person and I got good ideas. And when I get a good idea and I find people that can do it, I do it. If I can't find somebody to run something, some business I've thought of, then I don't do it because I ain't running no business.
Like the sprinkler business, that amazed me.
Yeah.
Back before anybody had residential sprinklers in their house to prevent, their house burning down.
Yeah.
You got into that. Why?
Yeah,
How?
Because I had to think outside of the box. I was building apartment buildings. I grew up poor. I never owned a home. My mother never owned a home until I bought her one. And so some of the old houses we used to rent, I went and bought them when I had money. I thought, I'm going to buy these houses. Maybe I'll make them museums. And then that was some kind of ego trip. I'm going to go to my old house. It's a dump, So So we tore them down and built apartment buildings where they stood. And I did it for my family. My brother-in-law and I was partners on one, my nephew on another, my brother, different people in my family. I would build it, let them run it. And then they made a little money too. So when we got up against the wall where they said you got to put a fire hydrant in front of the damn thing, because in the neighborhoods I lived in, they didn't have no fire hydrant. Your house caught on fire. If your hose didn't work, you're out of luck, you know.
Bucket of water.
So we got I just had to think out of the box. My brother-in-law says, you know, there's these new things called fire sprinklers, you know, and I said, hey, let's do it. And we started the business. And next, you know, I mean.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, like I said, my brother-in-law said he could do it. And I said, okay, here's the money, do
Let's
it,
do
you know.
it. Yeah.
And I'm that kind of a businessman. That's not much of a businessman.
You're a little shrewd. Well, and people say do what you're really passionate about and it'll pay off, rather
Yeah.
than what's going to make me a lot of money.
Well, saving, exactly.
Right.
No, I'm telling you, that's the whole secret. I never went into tequila. I never went into the Cabo Wabo nightclub. I never went into music saying, oh boy, that's going to make me a lot of money. You're hoping it does, but you know, I'd play music for free today, and I still do.
Yeah.
I would make the tequila. I would own the Cabo Wabo. If it was losing money, I'd still be pumping money into it because I love it. When I go to Mexico, I like having my own place to play and eat and drink and party with my friends. You know, don't get any better than that. So, yeah, passion's the key to success. It really is.
When you were 4, I really love the stuff you divulge about being a kid. And your dad told you something when you were 4
He did.
about your future. And it meant something to you,
Well,
obviously, because you wrote it in the book.
Yeah, well, my dad, who was, you know, had a lot of serious drinking problems and all that, but he always praised me and called me champ, said, hey, you know, you're going to be the champion of the world, and, you know, he always made me feel like I was special. And as a young kid, I think I learned that really affects a child. It made me think about when I'm raising my own kids, show them that they love you. You know, I mean that they're loved. And if you're loved, I swear, you know, I don't care how poor you are, you're sick or whatever, you believe in your mom and dad can do anything for you. And I think that when you're parents, by just simply showing your children love and giving them, telling them they're going to be somebody and they're special, it sinks into a kid, and you'll carry that with you, you know, right through your whole life. You know, and here you are walking through the ghetto as a kid. Man, I had nothing, and I was going around telling my friends as a 14 years old, yeah, I'm going to be, we didn't call ourselves rock stars, but, you know, I'm going to be like famous, you know. Yeah. People say, oh, really, what are you going to do? I don't know. I think I'm going to sing and play guitar. Oh, well, one of my buddies said, well, you better, here's a guitar, you better learn to play this thing.
Good luck with that.
You know, but, you know, having confidence is really important.
Lots of musicians, lots of artists, lots of people, period, find themselves at their most productive when they're most hungry. And to that point, a lot of people, when they're not as hungry later, can't really produce great art, great music, great paintings, great writing. In the book, though, you talk about the greatest motivator for you, or one of them being actually having success, and making it makes you want to make it that much more.
Well, you really did read this book. That's great.
Oh, I read every word in the book.
Yeah, and that's such a overlooked detail, but it's about me. I don't know if anyone else is like that. I don't know how many. There's got to be people like that. But what really drove me was the taste of success, and I started feeling like, hey, you know, not just fame and fortune, but these people like who I am and what I'm giving them. So then it gave me the confidence to give them more and say, oh, well, hey, man, you don't even know, man. I've been hiding behind this semi-rock star persona. You know, I used to try to be Rod Stewart. I used to try to be Peter Wolf. I used to try to be Robert Plant. I used to try to be Roger Daltrey. You know, I used to try to be Mick Jagger. You know, like when I was growing up, I was always pretending to be these guys when I first was on stage. And then I started writing my own songs and getting accepted, and you go, every time more and more got accepted, I'd say, oh man, well now I'm going to really show them who I am. The next thing I know, I'm, you know, on stage barefoot in a bathing suit, you know, and a tank top, you know, in Cabo with a margarita in my hand. I'm going, here I am. This is who I really am now. You know, now you got the real deal behind nothing. And when the fans accepted that, I just said, I'm here.
It seems to me that I've never compared you to anyone in the way you present yourself on stage or in the way you sound. So you really did early on, even with Montrose, seem to have your own thing going on. You didn't seem like anybody else, even though you had an affinity for Peter Wolf. And you mentioned Steve Marriott, who's just
Steve
brilliant.
Marriott and Rod Stewart. The first time I saw Rod Stewart in the Faces, he blew my mind. Well, no, I actually saw him with Jeff Beck.
Right.
And it blew my mind. And then later on with the Faces, where he came out a lot more too, and was flamboyant. And I was trying to be like that. I'm not a good impersonator. I'm so funny. You know, I can't. I used to try to sing like other people, and it just sounds like myself. So I'm lucky in that sense that people couldn't see through it and say, "Oh, look at him, he's acting like Rod Stewart." But yeah, I was trying to act like Rod Stewart in Montrose, trying to throw the mic stand in the air and twirl it and do all those things.
True,
I couldn't do it, you know. So instead, I just grab it and jump as high as I could.
Yeah, that worked too.
Yeah.
Rod said that he learned from Long John Baldry, and Baldry told him to look cool. Never stand on stage with your legs together. Always stand with your legs wide apart.
Well, it worked for a lot of us, you know.
If you were to speak to a kid who thinks, you know, rock and roll's a great way to go in life, impart some wisdom or a piece of advice that you think would be integral to his success.
Well, I don't think anyone quite makes it until they have something unique to offer. So the sooner you can find out who you really are and what you really have to say, that's the most important thing. You know, I mean, you got to practice, but you need to soul search a little bit, like on an early age, because like I say, it didn't come for me very quick. I gave little pieces at a time. When I finally made it, you know, I'd been around a long time, but when I finally made it to being myself, really had my own style, my own singing about what I want to sing about. So it's pretty simple if you realize, what do you want to say? What is your voice? You know, what is your bitch? What do you got to talk about? Is it politics? Is it love? Is it, you know, family? Is it hurt, hatred? Whatever it is, you know, start expressing yourself and finding out, play the kind of music that you want to hear in your head. You know, don't play your heroes' music. You grow up on that a little bit, but when you start playing your own stuff, baby, you got to let that go and say, no, this is what I want to hear. In my head, I want to hear this music. So you start playing that. It's a little complex, but that's really, I think, really good advice. The sooner you have something that people go, man, that guy, I've never seen anybody like that. You're there, pal.
And you can't be better at doing anything than being yourself.
No, you can't. It's
right?
the easiest one. It's the one you get the farthest from.
Yeah.
And here, all you got to do is turn around and reconnect with yourself, because that's who you are.
Right.
And all you got to do is figure it out. Stand there looking in the mirror and stuff. I don't know what it takes, but I say the quicker you can find that out, then you go on your path. You know.
You get into great detail in the book about how the song that means more to you than any other song came about, and the story is great. Tell as much about I Can't Drive 55 as you would like, because it's all here, I know, in the book.
Well, basically, I'm a speed nut. I want to be where I'm going. I hate you know, and you know, in every Zen book I read, that's when I wrote the song Right Now, was about me trying to get rid of this anxiety I have about it. I just want to be there. I don't want to. And it's the ride that's supposed to be the best part, right? So I've been missing that. So I've always been a speed demon. And when I'm driving, I just, you know, I want to drive fast. I dig it. It feels good. It's exhilarating. But it's also because I want to get there. So I'm driving at 62 miles an hour. I just traveled on a whole vacation. I took in Africa with my family, 1983, I guess. And man, I get pulled over going 62 miles an hour. They changed the speed limit when I was gone, so that was the trouble.
That's not fair.
That's not fair. I was in Africa. What do I know about the speed limit? I don't even know if they had one over there. So I land 24 hours of travel from Kenya to London, London to New York, New York to Albany, New York City to Albany, you know, the customs and all that crap, and then get in the car and drive to Lake Placid, get pulled over doing 62 miles an hour. 2 o'clock in the morning, 4-lane highway, nobody else there. I just screamed to my wife that was sitting in the car, and I just goes, I can't drive 55. And then I started laughing, you know, and to myself. And then I'm saying, hey, you know, pencil and paper. The guy's out there writing my ticket. I'm sitting there writing the lyrics. It's a true story. It's the kind of crap that happens to me. You know, it's like, it sounds like some big, fantastically made up story. Plain and simple. I said it, heard it in my own head, laughed, wrote the song.
Kind of worked.
Yeah. That's been a career song for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't my highest charting single, but it's the biggest explosion in my career as a solo artist. I was doing arenas, 8,000 to 12,000 every night on 3 Lock Box Tour 83. I wrote that song, and it came out on the BOA album with that video. I went to multiple arenas. I started playing 2 and 3 nights in all the arenas, selling them out, and that's a big jump for one song, you know.
One of the first songs I played on the radio in college. I was happy about that. What's another song from your days in Montrose or Van Halen or anything that's up close on that level from an emotional connection for you that you're proud of?
I think Bad Motor Scooter, because it was the first song I really wrote. I had a couple songs I wrote, but they weren't really, they never got recorded. You know, I'd sit around, but that was the first song that really I wrote that really got recorded and did, you know, did pretty well. In Europe, in France, it was like a top 10 single. In England, it was like a top 10 single. And I'm going, that's the first song I wrote in my life. I'm driving across, here we go again, driving. I'm driving across the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, bumper to bumper traffic, some guy on a motorcycle with his girl on the back is going through the traffic, and I'm going, this guy, man, he's, you know, on his Bad Motor Scooter, like, you know, I'm sitting here, you know, stopped, and he's like crawling up through the thing on his Bad Motor Scooter. Hey, good song, Tyler, good idea, by the way.
Great song. Yeah. Well recorded, too.
Oh, Ted Templeman, you know, have Ronnie Montrose, Denny Carmassi, Bill Church.
Over the top.
Great musicians. Don Landy, he did all the same producer and engineer, Don Landy and Ted Templeman, who ended up doing all the Van Halen records, you know, right up to one of the ones I was in the band too, even. And Ted Templeman recorded I Can't Drive 55, the VOA record for me as well, so yeah.
I think, didn't he used to do like TV themes way back? Somebody told me.
No, Ted Templeman was actually in the Harper's Bazaar. He was in a band.
They did Feeling Groovy.
Yeah, Feeling Groovy. Yeah. He was a tambourine player, singer, little blonde dude with a pinstripe suit.
What were a couple of the toughest things you had to dig into in this book? You know, beyond the music, emotional stuff that you just went, wow.
Well, my mom, you know, hey, come on. Parents are tough, man. They're both gone. And my mom lost her a few years ago. So writing this book, talking about my mom, you know, rough, hard, because, you know, good woman. So that was tough emotionally. Emotionally going back and talk about my divorce, because I had 2 sons. My older son was kind of grown up. He was cool. But my younger son, 4 or 5-year-old boy, you know, going through divorce, and that was tough to remember. That was the hardest part about it. I was going to leave my first wife before she got pregnant. She got pregnant in Africa on that trip I was talking about, right? And I was going to leave her then. It was over, but she got pregnant. You know, I'm not going to leave a pregnant woman. Had the baby. I love the baby. You know, it's like who doesn't love their kids? So I hung in her. I was a bad guy, but you know, I was having more fun actually being married than I ever did single. That's a joke, but it's kind of true. I was having a really good time then, and my 5-year-old son, that was the hardest part about going back and remembering that and talking about. And the last thing that was really hard was talking about the Van Halen reunion, because it was all dirt, and I didn't want that in the book. You know, hardships I'm okay with in the book. You know, talk about when I was struggling or something happened, you know, that was hard for me. Not a problem. I didn't like talking about another person, and like that. I didn't want to expose Eddie, but I had to, because that tour, everyone asks, you know, what happened? Hey, why you guys didn't do it again? Or why didn't you make a record? You know, everybody's looking at me like, and if you talk to those guys, you know, that camp was always anti-me at that point in life. So, you know, Eddie would be saying, oh, Hagar don't want to work, or, you know, oh, he's burnt out, or, you know, some kids, all he cares about is this tequila, you know. He would always throw that crap on me, and rather than run to the press and sit there and have a pissing match and go back and forth, I just walked away from it all, and just a lot of people don't know what happened. But the internet, YouTube is out there, man.
And it's in detail, and what I loved about the way you told the story is it's factual, and it's your feelings about, you know, what you went through, and it's observations about the guys in the band.
Observations.
But it's never condemnation.
I couldn't. That's why I said I don't want to dog anybody. I love the guy. You know, I wish he was well. Maybe he is now. He looks better. Little pictures I've seen him. He got remarried again. So obviously, somebody put a leash back on him. You know, us rock stars, you know, you take a leash off us. We have a tendency to get way out there, and Eddie can do it with the leash on. Okay, so
need one of those that is the expanding.
So I think he's probably, you know, reeled in a little bit, and that's a good thing. And I would love that more than anything for him to be back like he was. But that was a miserable experience, man. It was hard, and it's so funny. I'm starting this book tour in Canada, and everybody wants to talk about that chapter. Of course, the best shows we did on the reunion tour in Canada. In Toronto, we did awesome shows. He was the best for some reason, maybe because you came across the border, you know what I mean? And you couldn't bring everything with you or something. I don't know, but he seemed to be in better physical condition up
Right.
here than he was in a lot of other places.
You've stayed in incredibly great condition. How? Having
I
fun?
don't know. I
Getting
drink.
out there? Do you do
I
any?
drink. I do little drugs every now and then. You know, I mean, I'm not an angel, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, my wife's she's got me reeled way in. I'm like, have no leash. She got her finger in my collar, you know. But so that helps. And I was married before. I was married young and had a very strict wife and a couple kids where I cared, you know, about them.
Yeah.
So I've always had a reason not to go get too crazy, and that's part of it. But I've always been an exercise nut. I grew up, you know, running and boxing and skipping rope and all that stuff, and I still do. Biking, you know, I had that bicycle company. I was an avid biker. I can hardly bike anymore. For some reason, it kills my wrists and my hands. I can't play guitar after a long mountain bike ride.
Yeah,
I could take the uphill, but the downhill beats up my hands. Like everybody else, most people take their bike and they put it in the back of their truck. They go to the top of the mountain and they go downhill and have the guy drive their truck back. I'd rather go to the top and have the guy drive my bike back. For some reason, the downhill just beats up my shoulders and my neck and my arms and my fingers. So I don't do much biking anymore, but still, my wife and I, we hike and run just avidly on the beach or in the mountains, wherever we are.
The book reveals a lot of the how around, you know, separating from Montrose, separating from Van Halen, obviously. What's the sort of the biggest learning you took away from those endings that you could go, well, you know, it wasn't all bad. Now I know this about myself or about human nature.
Oh, I just think that they were all for the better. That if I would have stayed in any of those bands, I wouldn't have had the success I've had. I think that sometimes I'm a long-term guy. I'm a marathon runner. I am you know, hey, you stick this out. I'm a loyal son of a gun. And so you almost have to throw me out of a band, even when it's going bad. I'm still working to say, look, hey, we're gonna make this work. I'm a leader. I'm gonna say, no, I'm taking charge. We're gonna make this work, And when you see it go against you, you've done everything you can do, and it's still, these people are out to destroy you and their relationship with you.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to hang in there. I mean, I'm not the guy. I'm not a quitter, and I'm not like the guy that, I may be the guy that created it somehow, I don't know, with the friction, but when it comes to an end, I'm usually the guy saying, no, come on, Ed, we can work this out, or, hey, come on, Ronnie, you know, I want to be in this band, let's, they're the ones that end up saying, no, they've had it, they can't be around me anymore, whatever, for whatever reason. I don't get that part, but I haven't learned anything from that, but I do know that it's always it's like I've got an angel on my shoulders that just says, nope,
Yeah.
you got to get out of here because you got to move on, pal. There's another thing for you.
Right.
And so it's like a band, Montrose, 10-year solo career, band, Van Halen for 10 years, 10-year solo career, Chickenfoot. You know, it just seems to always lead me. And if the bands don't break up, I'd stick in there. I'd still be in Van Halen if they wouldn't have thrown me out. I tell you right now. I'd be miserable probably, but I'd be there, there with them.
I gotta think though, it's total speculation. You didn't say it in your book, I'm saying it now. I mean, Montrose was nothing when you left, after you left. Van Halen has been nothing in your absence. I gotta think there's jealousy in there somewhere. Having read the book, having read all the facts I can find about you and about these situations, I mean, there's some, it's not like they were better off without you, is what I'm saying.
I know, I don't get it. That's what I swear.
It's a tough one to respond to, I realize.
Because when you ask me, what have I learned, you know, what have I make of now in hindsight, I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't know why Van Halen would choose to throw me out of the band like that, you know, and then flounder for 14 or 16 years it's been. I don't know, whatever it's been. I'm going, I mean, Eddie's got his own recording studio. His brother lives down the street, he's his drummer. His son now plays bass. He lives, you know, there, all right? He's a genius guitar player. He can play guitar, he can play keyboards, he can play, why can't they make a record?
Yeah.
They've got me. If they really wanted a singer, they could coax me into doing it. They've got David Lee Roth, who's begging to be in that band. And they had Gary Cerrone. He's a good singer. Gary's a damn good singer. They didn't give it a chance. Yeah. The way that thing, Eddie became dogmatic, and Gary didn't. Gary was just some poor guy trying to sing what Eddie wanted him to sing.
Hey, he proved he was a great singer before that.
Yeah,
so that was,
he's a great singer and a great guy. You know, and a healthy
he's a sweetheart.
guy. So I'm just going, what's the quirk here? There's a real problem, you know, and yeah, I just don't understand why people do stuff like that. Why would they give up all that we had? We're the biggest band in the world. We had it all going. And I'm not bitter at all. If it wouldn't have been for that, I never started Cobble Wobble. I'd have never got to this point, you know, where I'm a very happy human being with where I'm at in life. You know what I mean? That's why I wrote this book. I'm happy enough to say I can tell it all now. I'm embarrassed about nothing. I can stand up tall, you know. So I'm glad it happened, like I said, but I don't understand why, you know.
A couple of things that people may not realize about you. Well, one, they will, because you're wearing it. And the other one kind of relates to it, in my estimation, the idea of psychics. You used to go, you still go?
Well, I don't have one now. My guy moved to Australia. I talk to him on the phone once in a while.
You call him and get a fix?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. Psychic guys aren't allowed to just walk up to you and laying stuff on you. In the world of psychic phenomena, it's illegal. It's interfering with your karma. Okay. So you have to ask them, and you have to be in a situation where you ask them a question, then they can tell you. But they have to be careful not to interfere. It's against they'll lose their psychic abilities, the real good ones. The thing they see, they can't just walk up to people on the street and say, "Hey, you're gonna get hit by a car, watch out." You know, hey, you know, the poor guys, they're like this. They're really reclusive people because they see so much it drives them nuts. I believe in it totally. I'm a firm believer. There's a lot of fakes in everything. There's fake rock stars, you know. But these guys that are real, they're really, really good. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Marshall Lever and Miss Kellerman, two in my life that I can say said everything dead on the money, not speculative, not Ouija board kind of stuff, you know. We're talking about, dude, don't shave your beard, you know, and keep your hair long, and you know, go here and you know.
Practical stuff that you go, okay, I'm going to do, really? Yeah, wow.
And happen dead on.
Yeah.
Miss Kellerman told me I was going to be a famous writer, and I always thought that it was going to be a book. But now that I've, you know, this is before I ever wrote a song. I didn't have Bad Motor Scooter in my pocket at this time, you know. And she said, "You're going to be a famous writer. Your name's going to be famous all over the world, and as a writer." And I'm going, has to be. Looking back now, she must have been talking about songs. I wasn't thinking songs at all. I was thinking, I guess I'm going to write a book someday. You know?
As you're saying it, I'm kind of thinking back to what your dad said and what you said about, you know, this foundation of positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Tell somebody they're going to do something great, gives them a little more of an impetus to be that great.
And the more desperate you are, the more down and out you are, the more you believe it.
Yeah.
And when you really believe it, Jack, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's just what religion's been working off that forever. People get down and out and they turn to church or to God or to Jesus or, you know, whatever the religion is, and it helps them because they really believe. And I believe that even if you don't believe in God, if I were in some other profession, I wouldn't mind being a preacher so that I could give people hope and belief, because it's important. Because without that, the world is, you don't, if you don't believe in God, what are you going to do? Say, I don't care. I'll kill this guy. I got nothing to lose.
Something greater. Something
you
greater.
have to
whatever
have some kind of belief. So when, you know, a psychic comes up and says you're going to be this or that, I'm going, yeah, I believe you, and I'm going to go do it. And it's a power. It's very powerful, I think.
And what about the power of red?
Well, it's just got the power for me. You know, it just barks at you. You know. It's funny, like when you look at that red thing over there, you look at the red or the green. I mean, the green's beautiful, it's all nice, but that red is just,
it's bold.
It's like saying, hey, dude, you know.
I'm glad you didn't become the green rocker. That would just be weird.
It would be too fashionable today, wouldn't it?
When somebody that's never been here before in this country says, what's Canada like to you? Because there's a lot of people in the States that have never been to Canada for whatever reason. What best describes Canada to you?
It's like, to me, a liberal America. I think it's, you know, everything feels more liberal and less, I hate to say it about my own country, but, you know, America is just, everyone's so greedy, and there's so much, people are just, they just take advantage of each other. I mean, not everywhere, there's some good people, but there's a lot of crooks, you know, and I don't like that, you know. At Canada, I don't feel that as much, you know. I feel people are doing their own thing, willing to do honest, hard work and get to A to B, you know, and be more content with it. And but I don't know, that It's about the only difference. It's becoming very similar musically now. I remember in the old days when I used to come and play Canada, it was like Europe. I'd say, oh man, the people, they didn't respond. They're sitting there like, you know, because I was always an exciting performer. I wanted reaction when I jumped off a damn 2 stacks of Marshalls, 20 feet in the air, landed you know, on my back. Oops, is this thing still going? Okay. I'll leave it down there.
That's fine.
I would want a reaction, and in Canada it'd be like, in Europe it'd be like they'd just be gawking, and then when the song was over, they'd jump and applaud, and as soon as I start talking, they'd shut up and go, hey, don't shut up, you know, now I don't know what to say. You
It's
know?
this insufferable politeness.
Yeah, but respect, and I didn't know how to, but anymore, Canada's last few years I played here, it's no different.
Yeah.
And the same way Europe kind of came back around too, you know. Japan, they're still a little, yeah, they're still kind of too polite, you know.
Your trusted friend Michael Anthony has called you the most positive, upbeat guy in the world. Is that
outside of him?
Outside of him, yeah, he's a sweetheart, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
yeah,
awesome.
I feel the same way about him. Yeah. When are you not that guy? Ever? In the middle of the night when the phone rings, or is there a time when it's not that good? Looking for your wife. Because you can't be on all the time, or can you?
I am not on all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't even try to be. You know, I could get insecure, you know, real easy about something, anything. You know, there's just weird things that trigger me. I go crazy when people come after me in a wrong way. You know, unfortunately, in my successful entrepreneurial excursions, I get people that try to sue me and try to, you know, just extort money from me. They figure, oh, he'll just settle out of court. I go crazy.
You're a target, and you go crazy when they come after you.
Yeah. I mean, I get so angry. I go around and tell them, I'm like, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna show that guy. I'll spend $5 million before I'll give him 1 penny. You know, and then my attorneys are going, calm down. And I mean, I go nuclear. I just can't stand someone trying to take something from someone that doesn't belong to them. Yeah. And even if it's not me, if I see it happening around me, I jump out. I get angry.
You're a protector, aren't you?
Kind of.
Of those you love.
And for mankind, you know, I would love to go around helping people. That's why I say I could be a preacher. I could be a politician, or I could be a doctor or a healer. If I could be a healer, that's probably what I'd do.
Yeah.
They say, what would you want to be if you weren't Sammy Hagar, or if you weren't what you are? I would say, I wish I could heal people. If I could heal people, go around and take little sick children and make them well.
What could be more honorable than that?
I'd do that over anything on this planet. I'd throw away all the money. I'd give all my money right now. I could push it right into that river over there. You know, if I could do that, that would be a good thing.
You've called Michael Anthony loyal. You've called Valerie Bertinelli cool. First thing that comes to mind when I say Alex Van Halen.
Oh, I dig Alex. I love him. Alex is a. I used to always say, and I'll say it again today, and still mean it from the bottom of my heart. I wish Alex were my big brother, and playing drums in my band. If I had a guy like him that looked out for every inch of me, even when I'm wrong, Alex was back Eddie. I respect the hell of him. We bumped heads many times hard because of that. Alex has betrayed me as much as Eddie because of he's sticking with Eddie.
Yeah.
But Alex is a different kind of guy. He's a great guy. I like Alex. I love Eddie too, but he just really has betrayed me, and he's really become the enemy, and I can't stand it, but it's a fact. To where Alex is not the enemy. He's Eddie's brother. He's the enemy's brother.
Brother of the enemy. I would love to make another album with Van Halen, and then there's a pretty good chance that can happen. Your feelings you touched on a little bit. Are there any facts you can provide to that?
Absolutely. The only facts I have is that we've seen what happened before. I was thrown out of the band. I was asked to come back for a reunion, and if Eddie would have been in great shape, we would have made a whole record. We tried to make a record, but we only got 3 songs in. So there's water under the bridge. David Lee Roth, when he was thrown out or he left the band. I don't know what happened with Dave, to be honest with you. Now that
He
now
probably
that
said something stupid. It's just my guess.
Well, now that I see what happened to me, that they always said I quit, and I'm going, I did not quit
Yeah, you
that
did,
band.
yeah.
So I don't know if Dave quit or not. You know what I mean? They always
Somewhere in the
told me-
middle lies the truth, probably,
Yeah, well,
in both cases.
Probably.
I know your truth.
But seeing what happened with Dave,
Yeah.
knowing he was the brutal enemy when I was in the band, I didn't even know the guy. But hey, that guy, you ever see him paint his face in and all? I'm going, okay, I guess he's the enemy, So then seeing it when I left and they tried to get him back like 5 or 6 times. I mean, how many abortions did they have of that?
Yeah.
Ones we don't even know about.
Yeah, clearly.
And then they finally did it. So it's like anything can happen. Because trust me, I know Dave a little bit now because we did that tour together, which wasn't a pleasurable experience. But he's probably farther away from Eddie than I am as a human. I mean, I don't see how they can do that with Wolfie in the middle of that thing.
It's a strange dynamic.
I'm like,
no, I can't either.
It's like, you want to talk about what's Charlie Sheen show, 2.5 Men? It's like, it's like a couple weird. That's a weird combination of people. So I'm just saying, if they could do it, then we could probably do it. I don't care to do it right now, but someday in our life, I'd rather not have something happen where somebody dies, me, them, anybody, and then say, wow, we missed out on never being friends again, because that's the most important thing.
Fair
we
enough.
were great friends and made great music, and I insist that come back, even if we never play together. We have to be friends first. But if we were friends, we'd play in a second, because we were great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a great band.
Before we close, musically, what's on the horizon? What do we have to look forward to in Sammy Hagar's musical career?
New Chickenfoot CD. I've got 7 vocals done.
Good.
We got 12 new songs, all written with Chad. Chad's,
Yeah.
Chad, Mike, and Joe. We all got together. We recorded the thing. I had to come on my book tour, so I'm 4 or 5 songs short of doing the real vocals. I got 2 lyrics yet to write. It's a great record. I mean,
Good.
I don't want to hype
Good.
it. It'll be.
You feel
out.
good about it?
I feel real good.
That's
about it,
the
man.
main thing.
You got Joe Satriani. Come on, he's as good a guitar
Love
player as
Joe.
anyone on the planet. You got me and Michael Anthony. There's half of Van Halen,
Yeah.
and vocally, more than half of the Van Halen with vocally. And then you got Chad Smith, the greatest fucking rock drummer on the planet.
Waxing the drums like nobody.
And he's funky and
He's a good
and
man.
loose. So, but he had to go back with the Peppers. So I don't know if there would be a tour with Chad. I wouldn't tour without him unless the record exploded and there was such a demand
You had to go out.
that the fans were willing to let us have another drummer. Let's just, I mean, with the internet, you can do this.
Yeah.
Okay, can we do this? Will you accept another drummer, knowing that he's not the permanent guy?
Yeah.
You go get a Tommy Lee or a Matt Sorm or I mean, everybody wants to do it. You can't believe
I'm
the
sure.
line of
Oh, I
drummers.
believe.
I want a Paul McCartney's guy.
Yeah.
The big black
Wicked,
guy.
wicked
Get him just to
drummer.
play with us for 20, 30 shows till Chad could come back or whatever. I would do it. Other than that, I don't know if we're going to tour, but we're making a killing record.
I can't wait to hear it. Everybody into rock music, and not just into music, but into success stories, will benefit from reading this cover to cover as I did. I really enjoyed it.
It's the manual on success.
It really is exactly that. Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.